Welcome back to the homestead. I'm the Frugal Gardener. I garden in the hills of West Virginia. It's in Zone 7A. And this is the second installment of Countdown to Spring. The sun is trying to peep through the clouds up here. We had a little drizzle earlier today. And people don't realize how fast spring is approaching. We're just basically 29 days away. Yes, 29 days before the spring equinox. And there's one thing that I think every gardener, especially home gardeners, should do. And that is basically the title of this video. There's one mistake that a lot of people make before they plant their first seed. And that is they don't have a plan. There are a lot of people who've been gardening for a long time, but there are also a lot of first-time gardeners. If you are a first-time gardener, you definitely need a plan, but a lot of established gardeners, home gardeners, they just kind of wing it. And the first thing you need to do, the first mistake that I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is to not have a plan, not to decide in advance what it is that you're going to grow and where you're going to grow it. I started this off by showing you where the sun is, because the sun that rises over top of my homestead here now is not going to be where the sun is going to be later on this spring and into the summer. Instead of it being over here, it's going to be over here. And if you don't plan your garden accordingly, you may end up with a lot of less sun than what you think you're going to have, which is going to be crucial to the success of some of the things that you may be growing. So the first thing I do every year is to come up with a list. This is everything I'm growing. This list is not complete. This is on the right, actually what I'm going to be growing in terms of fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables. On the left is a video I did earlier. I'll put a link down in the description to all of the plants that I'm going to be growing that's going to attract the pollinators. It's going to attract the bees, it's going to attract the birds, the butterflies, and so forth. So that video is up. This video is in the process of being completed. So now that I know what it is I'm going to grow, what I do is I go back to last year. What worked, what didn't. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is over here. This is a relatively new garden for me. I've only had this set up for about a year, but the problem was these are my two star containers. When I say star containers, I mean these are the largest, and these containers did produce a lot for me in the past. So I positioned them here, which turned out to be a mistake, because the other thing I didn't take into consideration were these trees here. And what happens is when this sun moves this way, it moves behind these trees, and when these trees are in full bloom in late spring and early summer, this gets a very limited amount of sun. So it's kind of weird, because everything from here on over did very well. It looks a mess now, but that's to be expected. The season has been over for maybe 6 months, and everything over here did exceptionally well. So you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this is going to stay the way it is. This is I'm going to have one major change to this. Last year, I grew potatoes in here. This year, I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to grow sweet potatoes in here. I grew potatoes down the other end, so Sweet potatoes down the other end. So the sweet potatoes will go in here. The potatoes will go down in the other garden. And this is up for grabs. So here, this is where I grew, well, I had a ton of tomatoes come out of here, and also cherry tomatoes came out of here, and this produced. So I cannot complain about any of this over here. I'm going to renew the soil and add some nutrients, and this is going to be an area that I'm not going to have to do a whole lot to. I had bees come in here. I had, for the first time, hummingbirds come in here. And so I'm going to double down on that by adding another hummingbird feeder. And I'm going to plant some flowers, which again, I did in the last video. I explained to you how I'm going to bring more flowers in to bring more bees in. But now, here's the problem. What I'm going to have to do is at least take half of the soil out of these, because there's no way, there's no way I'm going to be able to lift these or put these in my gorilla cart and move them with this much soil. Not at my age, not with my back. And I'm not even going to ask the frugal son-in-law, the frugal nephew, or my son to help me with any of this. I'll just take half of the soil out of this and move it. And that's going to go, I'll show you where in a second. The same problem here. This is wheat actually growing in here now. This was an experiment. I don't know how this is going to work out. You have to overwinter it. So we'll see what happens in the spring back here. But up here, I did have some success in growing, I believe it was green beans I had in here. So I have to be careful. Now I met a guy, I guess you can call him a neighbor. He lives down the road, who, he's a tree guy. Now, it's possible for me to have him come up here and cut some of these limbs down and let some more light in. That would solve the problem, but that's going to cost me money. He's a nice guy, but he's not going to work for free. So I'm going to show you now where these containers are going to go and what's going to go in them. So this was a rough spot for me, and it was disappointing because these crates were my go-to. I had these crates at the other property, which this is my third summer gardening up here. I should really say my second summer, because the first summer I wasn't really living here and I was trying to garden without being here, which turned out to be a bust. So this, you can see these carts are moving because the soil is pushing them back, but that's not the issue. The issue is the heat. These containers work really well for me because they were positioned differently at the old property. This is an area that gets full sun, which I thought was going to be to my advantage. And again, this is what I tell you guys. Think before you plant. Don't think about where the sun is now. Think about where it's going to be in the heat of the summer. The other issue I had was this siding was reflecting the heat off, which is the reason why you don't see a lot of black containers, especially in the summer, because this was reflecting off the heat. These containers obviously are black, and so they're drawing in the heat. But the big problem is evaporation. If you can see, these are just regular crates, but it's only material separating the crates from the sun. So when that sun beats down on this area for 6, 8, 10 hours a day, this soil dries up. And that's exactly what's been happening. I planted, excuse me, I planted greens in the spring. Everything does well in the spring, and then boom, as soon as that sun hits, we've been having hot summers. We talked about this in the past, where it's approaching or above 90 almost every day down here, and in a lot of parts of the country. I'm not going to get into a whole conversation about global warming. We've talked about this, for so long. It's not even worth going into again. But I've tried using the shade cloth. I've tried planting different things in here. You'll even see lavender in here from before. Some of the crates I moved around. So I think I cracked the code. The front of this house is 80 feet long. And I'm going to utilize a good portion of this. So I'm going to probably be utilizing somewhere between 60 and 70 feet. This over here is where I had like a little mini greenhouse set up. And the windstorms up here, again, if you guys are regulars, you've heard me talk or complain about the high winds and how devastating those winds could be. So this is gone. This is no longer viable. So this is all going to come up, and these leaves are going to go into the compost. And so what's going to happen is those pots that I showed you a few minutes ago are going to go here. Why? Because when I use the pots, they're going to block a lot of the sun from drying out the soil. And when I use the pots are going to be larger and have more soil. And I'm going to be able to put either straw or wood chips or mulch or something on the top that will help hold that moisture or retain the moisture. So this area here, which I don't think I really got the best use out of, and like I said, the sun is going to be behind me most of the day in this area. Yes, you're going to still have the reflection from the siding, but because the soil is going to be probably, those pots are probably a foot and a half deep, this is going to work well for me. Now I'm going to put cucumbers over here, and I'm going to put a couple other things over here. And this is mostly, all of this is going to be different. I'm still going to utilize this, but one of the things I figured out, and this is the reason why you do this stuff now. This is the reason why you come up with a plan now, because you wait until the spring and most of you guys are busy. You still work. You have children, grandchildren, other things to do. So this is the best time to do it when you're stuck in the house and the weather is, well, let's say not ideal. This is my peach tree that, believe it or not, I just brought this last year, and this is going to be transferred. This is going to go into the ground, which is going to free up another pot. So I have quite a few containers over here that I'm going to be using. Now, when I say that you guys need a plan and you should plan out your garden, this is another area that I'm going to expand upon. This was, it's weird because last summer I didn't get anything out of here, but summer before last, I managed to get squash out of here. I'm going to expand this. So you might be asking me, why are you going to expand it if it's not working for you? Well, the reason it's not working for me was because of the lack of bees. Again, I refer you guys to the previous video and you'll know what my bee situation is. But outside of having a list, like I showed you guys a few minutes ago, outside of having a list of everything you're going to grow, the main thing that you need, that we all need, that I do every single spring, in this case before spring, is come up with a layout. This is basic. There are some websites that will give you these printouts where you can just fill them in, or you can, create your own. And I choose to just go freehand. So the area I just showed you is this area here up against the front of the house. That's going to be cucumbers, beans, and sorrel. The cucumbers and the beans are those two pots that I mentioned to you that I'm going to move over there. And I'm going to move a third pot over there, and that's going to be the sorrel. Now, in here, this is where we are here. This is going to be the sweet potatoes that I mentioned to you a minute ago. The tomatoes that I grew all along here, like I said, that's going to stay. That worked well. And the peppers, which is also going to go over here. And I got a few peppers last year. It did okay. There wasn't anything right home about. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it did go well. Now, the white potatoes and garlic is going way over there in the raised garden that my son and my family built. I basically designed it and got the lumber for it, and they built it for me. And the frugal son-in-law helped fill up the soil in there. The wind is picking up. The carrots, I'll show you in a second, but this is the big new thing. Well, a lot of this is going to be new because the goal is to grow enough food that I can offset my food bill. That's the other thing. A lot of you guys who have been gardening are going to be expanding your garden. So it's not just going to be the 2 or 3, pots with cucumbers or tomatoes anymore, or the squash. It's going to be a lot more because of the food prices. It only makes sense. So if you're going to have a larger garden, you're definitely going to need to plan out what it is you're going to be growing, where you're going to be growing it, when you're going to be growing it. So the strawberries are going to go in those milk crates because they grow in the spring, and I'll be harvesting them before the heat of the summer. Now, what I'm going to do is add raised gardens. I'll come back to that in a minute also, and that's where I'm going to grow cantaloupe and watermelon, which I attempted to grow over here the last time. And I got a couple, but it didn't work out for me, again, because of the situation with the trees. So that is going to be one of the main changes that I'm going to make. I'm going to show you, the lavender. So just back over here again. This is going to be all lavender. The reason is because you see I have lavender plants all over the place. My goal was to have 100 lavender plants. But when I tackled this garden, because this garden is spread out, because I'm not used to growing so much, I never had this much opportunity to grow this much before, I failed to transfer all this here is lavender. All this is lavender. There's a lot of places you're going to look around the property and you're going to see lavender plants pretty much all over the place. So those lavender plants are going to go in here. Once all this is cleaned out and expanded, I'm going to put the lavender plants in here because they need to be in ground. That's the problem. I lost some of these because these pots were too small, like this, for example. So I'm going to wait and see what comes back, and I'm going to put them in here, and I'm probably going to have to find a second place to put the lavender plants. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on the lavender because we're talking mostly about vegetables or fruits and vegetables. So I came up with this solution, which is to take the top part. This is a perfect example right here what I'm talking about. These crates are sitting on top of crates. So what I'm going to do is take off the top crate, and here's more lavender. Take off the top crate where it's just basically raising it up so I don't have to bend over. And I'm going to move these bottom crates further apart, 6 feet to be exact. And I'm going to build a raised garden using lumber. It's going to be similar to what's up here, except for it's going to be about 12 inches wide and 12 inches deep and 6 feet long. I'm thinking about doing 2 of these, which is going to be a total of 12 feet. So this way I can fill these with soil and I can put whatever I want pretty much in here. Well, I mean, I can't say whatever I want because it's going to be dependent upon the depth of the roots. But there are a lot of things I'm going to be able to grow in here because I'm changing up the way that I'm doing this. Like I said, I'm still going to use these for the strawberries, but these are basically going to be stands at the bottom that I'm going to spread out so that I can put these boxes in, these 6-foot boxes in, and grow. Mostly it's going to be cantaloupe and it's going to be watermelon. When I say watermelon, I'm talking about sugar babies. I'm not talking about those, big giant watermelons, because that is going to take more space, and I don't really want to risk not being able to have enough room for the roots to develop. So I'm going to take a shortcut and come up here because we haven't talked about this yet. This has also been hit and miss. This is where I attempted to grow cucumbers last year. This definitely needs a lot more soil over here. I just basically put this over here because this is what's left of the greenhouse, the mini greenhouse that I had over there. So I repurposed this, and this is looking pretty sad. So this needs some work. This is fine the way it is. I just need to clean it up a bit and add some nutrients to it. So this is going to come off, and I'm going to use these rods, and I'm going to cover this because this is where I'm going to grow my carrots. Before, I grew carrots in containers where I can move the containers around. Nothing wrong with that, but I have this space. And again, here are the trees, but carrots don't need as much sun as, let's say, Jamaican sorrel or some of the other things that I'm growing. So all this is going to be used just to give you an idea, give you where your bearings are. Down here is the raised garden. Over here is where the lavender is going. Behind me is where the strawberries and the watermelon and cantaloupe is going to go. And way down here, over here, this is where my potatoes are going to go, and my garlic. This is my little 10-year-old frugal nephew. This is his little plot here. This looks like a hot mess right now, and it's primarily because I'm trying to kill off the weeds that are in here. The rain and the snow and the storm have moved this to the point where I'm going to have to cover this back up again, but you can see where the cardboard is and you can see where the plastic is. So I would say about 95% of this is still covered. Just needs a little tweaking. So that's basically what I'm going to do. I don't know how that log got in there. The idea was to clean all this out. I emptied these out, and the weather changed, as it always does out here, suddenly. And that's when the cold snap came through. This is the worst winter that we have had since we've been up here. This is our third winter, and it has been challenging, but as I said, we're 29 days away from spring, and once spring hits, it usually starts to warm up pretty fast down here. So I'm back to where I started originally, and these containers here, as I said, will stay. And I'm not sure what else I'm going to move. I'm looking at these over here. I would like to probably, most likely, move a couple of these over to that area here. The one big thing I have going for me is I've been collecting containers over the years. I have a ton of containers, and here's another one right here. And there's some in the greenhouse. So over here, this is my compost bin, which I'll give you guys an update on the next video. But as I said, I have containers all over the place. Here's another one. So this is going to be put into service, moved over there. And some of these containers are going to be used for the wildflowers and for the flowers that I'm going to be growing to attract the bees. Instead of trying to just plant flowers all over the place, I'm going to put the flowers in containers, smaller containers like these here, so I can strategically place them around the property to draw in the bees. So now, coming back, you can get a better feel of what I'm doing this year. This way, more importantly, I know what I'm doing this year. This was left intentionally blank because this is a work in progress. I will say this much. I never draw one of these up the first time and have it be one and done. I usually tweak these, I usually augment these, I usually go back and do a second one, sometimes a third one, but this is probably about 90% accurate. Most of this is going to stay the way it is. I will be adding on and maybe changing a few things between now and the time that I start planting. But just to give you an idea, I'm growing squash, potatoes, cucumbers, tomatoes, sweet potatoes, peppers, strawberry, sorghum, which I'll talk more about later, green beans, garlic, Jamaican sorrel, carrots, watermelon, cantaloupe, and peas. So before I let you guys go, I did want to say one thing about the sorghum. You can't, well, if you have deer, like we do, you cannot grow sorghum or sunflowers, which that's the other video. You can't just grow it anywhere you want. Besides the sun, you have to take into consideration that the deer are going to have a field day. So that sorghum is going to have to go in this fence. The deer technically could jump this fence. This fence needs to be at least 7 feet high to keep the deer out. But I am betting on the fact that by the time I start getting everything in here and getting everything the way I want it to be, as I rip all this out and put it in the compost, that this is so narrow. This is leaning because this is where the greenhouse ended up last winter. Well, I'm saying last winter, it's still winter. But again, I did a video when we had a really bad storm and that greenhouse ended up over here. So this has got to be reinforced. And I'm guessing that the deer are probably not going to want to jump into this enclosed area. So that's why I decided to choose this area. I could just basically put it up higher someplace or hide it someplace, which we'll see what happens. I want the sorghum because the sorghum is an all-natural sugar replacement. It's been around for thousands of years. I'm not going to go into that right now because this video is already going a bit longer than what I expected to go. Check out the next video, which is going to give you more ways to save money on how to garden. And this is what this is all about, how to grow more for less. I'm the Frugal Gardener. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you. If you've already subscribed, please do if you haven't, because now that we're going into spring, I'm going to be doing 2 videos a week for the spring and summer. And a lot of this stuff are things that other content creators, gardening content creators, don't bother with. I will give you kind of a heads up. I'm going to do a video for beginners. It's going to be a one and done, so I don't want you to think that I'm changing direction or changing focus for those of you guys who have been doing this for years. But because there are so many new gardeners out there, I'm going to do a simplified, stripped down, step by step. It's going to be something that a lot of you guys already know. I hope you watch anyway. Maybe you'll pick up something new, but it's going to be a single video, not a series, that I'm going to be doing in the next week or so. So again, thanks for taking time out of your day. Remember, when you grow your own food, you'll always know where it comes from. Catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy your day.